What's up, GameLeapers? It's the also known as EZCHALLENGER coach. And yeah, guys, welcome to today's video. So what we're going to be talking about are 10 champions with builds that are actually just like really OP, and some of these are going to be unknown to you. Some of them will be known because yeah, they've given you a bunch of aids in the last like week or so, but these are going to be OP right now and also in 13.4 when the patch drops, all right? So make sure you stick around for the whole video. I'm going to show you exactly what the items you have to build are on these champions. And if you want to master any of these champions, guys, check out the GameLeap website. We have the best players and coaches in the world uploading daily videos to the website, and it's guaranteed improvement. Legit, I've had people climb like divisions and tiers just from watching my videos on there. So check out those links to our website in the description and comment section, and all you have to do to get exclusive access to our library of content is sign up. That is it. So go and do that right now. And yeah, let's start by talking about the first champion. Now we're talking about Twitch, and we ain't talking TV. Now if you have a fetish for things with long noses and pronounced teeth, then you're going to love locking in Twitch as an AD carry. Now I know lots of people might be going like Kraken Slayer, or they might be going maybe even like Nash's Tooth into like Crown of Shattered Queen, but actually statistically the best build for Twitch right now is going Blade of the Rune King. This item, because of the recent buff to it for ranged champions where it's giving you an extra % of on-hit damage, this means that the item spike is actually better for these champions, which is just one of them. And if you look at the win rates in every single elo, Bork, getting this as your first item is easily the best option. With all the HP in the game, like even if we're talking about mid laners going Rod of Ages, top laners, like every top lane item has HP in it, junglers as well, the bruisers, even if they're AP junglers with Demonic Embrace, even though lots of these champions are getting nerfed 13.4, like there's just HP across the rift. Also, if you think about engaged supports coming back into the meta, right, these champions are going to have more of the green stuff, so getting through that is really important in the early to mid game. And Twitch with a Blade of the Rune King rush, that's exactly what this build is designed to do. So try this out in your games. Now next up, a champion who is even doing better than Twitch, this is Annie. And Annie honestly is like just a baddie at the moment. She might look pretty innocent, but she hits harder than any champion. So she might look, you know, all cute, oh, and she's got like a nice little cuddly toy. Nah bro, don't be deceived by this, you know that. Like she has a 55% win rate, and she's not even getting nerfed. I don't know if Riot are going to hotfix nerf her in 13.4. I definitely think they kind of have to, just based on the stats, because she is so broken, right? But you guys know what actually is like the best build for Annie. So I know lots of people might be going like Luden's Tempest, right, and just Shadow Flame. Shadow Flame's second item is still good, but what I want you guys to do as your first item is build a Rod of Ages. And you might be like, why on earth would I build that? You know, like my first item spike isn't going to be as big. For sure, if you get a Luden's Tempest, right, you're going to deal more damage after that first item spike. But here's the thing, Rod of Ages is just OP. Think about all those champions, right, like Anivia, Ryze, Kassadin, Cassiopeia. They're all doing so well because this item, and with Seras, got buffed. Now you're not building Seras, by the way, that's important, but with Rod of Ages, the HP, the AP stacking, this gives you so much over the course of a game, and it also makes you tanky. Like you're very hard to kill with this item. And let me put it this way, guys, you will still easily do enough damage as Annie. Do not think that you're not going to one-shot squishy champions when you go Roa. You will still easily be able to do this, and that's also why we're going Shadow Flame second, because we do need a little bit of magic penetration. Pair Rod of Ages and Shadow Flame, then with Sorcerer Shoes, and you have all the magic penetration damage you need, but you also have a bit of resilience there yourself. So Annie with Rod of Ages, a super underrated actual build, but when you pair this with the most OP champion in the game, this could easily be the #1. Now at the moment on Summoner's Rift, guys, it's raining feathers, and I'm sorry to all you Azir and Quinn mains because I'm not unfortunately talking about you. I'm talking about the most OP champion in the bot lane, this being Xayah. Now, I know that this build, you know, is kind of well known, but the reason it's on this video is just because it's incredibly busted. That's pretty much it. This is just Gale Force into Navori Quick Blades for Xayah. Now Gale Force, nothing has really changed, right? It's pretty much the same item it's always been, but Navori Quick Blades is now back because it's proccing the passive anyway, the ability haste you get off 40% crit, no longer 60% crit. So as soon as you have your Gale Force and then Navori Quick Blades on Xayah, this kind of like power spike, I guess, has been accelerated. And it means that your ultimate is no longer going to be on such a long cooldown, and it also means your Blade Caller where you rip back those feathers, there's just so much pressure you have. Also the recent buffs a couple of patches ago to Xayah to your actual attack speed, this is huge for an attack speed based AD carry. And statistically speaking, just like every champion, I guess, on this countdown, she is performing very, very well indeed. And I'm kind of surprised maybe that Riot aren't going to nerf her in 13.4 because she's doing so well in every single elo, and she's probably even blind pickable now as well. Typically speaking, you're going to be picking Xayah into close range matchups because of your amazing ultimate, right, and your feathers. You know, we see her picked into stuff like maybe Xayah, Samira, these type of champions, but she's so innately strong, you can pick her into anything and do very well. So Xayah with Gale Force and Navori has to be mentioned. Now, moving back to the mid lane, we're going to talk about the female assassin of Noxus, the assassin of LP, but one thing you guys aren't assassinating is Katarina's build itself, right? Now, of course, you can go Proto Belt, you can go, well, it's Rocket Belt now, you can go Rocket Belt, Nash's Tooth, right? You can go the typical AP setup. But what I think is really underrated is actually going Divine Sunderer into Wit's End into Randuin's Omen. Look at the stats for me in Challenger Reload. This build has like the highest win rate out of every single build, and it's not like it's picked in 5 games. This is a decent sample size here. The reason this works is because, well, you're getting on-hit right from Divine Sunderer and Wit's End. The reason why on-hit is so good on Katarina is because you have it in like every single ability in your kit, right? Because those were the changes Riot gave to Katarina. I can't remember what season it was, but it was somewhat recent, right? They gave her on-hit. That's why Nash's Tooth works as well, but I'm saying that Divine Sunderer with Wit's End is even better. Also, the passive where you're getting armor penetration and magic penetration from your other major items, this is huge for Katarina and makes you a very good scaling champion. Honestly, it's probably the best mythic passive you're going to have, so that's why this rush is so deadly. Then when you actually get Randuin's Omen in the late game, the actual active from this where you can slow enemy champions around you, it keeps them in your death loaders for longer and just makes you impossible to kill. Remember, you're still getting magic penetration and armor penetration from Randuin's because of the Sunderer passive. So guys, test this out in your games. And by the way, if you actually have tried any of these builds out, let us know in the comment section what you actually think of them. Now, one build I'm kind of excited about, well, not really excited about, but I do like having a Shen building this on my team. So Redemp Shen. This build was popular with the old Turbo Chem Tank, if you guys remember, because Chem Tank gave you like a bunch of ability haste, right? But instead of Chem Tank, because it's no longer a mythic item, you're going Radiant Virtue instead. This is your first item when you're going this setup on Shen. Now, this will mean that you tickle the enemy top laner, right, when you're laning against them. You're not really going to be a powerhouse in lane, but it makes your stand united and cross-map presence even more powerful. This is crazy OP when you have high damage champions on your team, and guess what? In solo queue, you're going to have them in every single game. And this is so OP because you protect them like their dad. So this is kind of like the daddy Shen build. You're protecting your teammates with your ultimate. So Shen getting a Radiant Virtue into a Redemption when you have stuff on your team like a Vayne, like a Jinx, like a Xayah, even engaged support Shen can do very well, right? Because you ult on the support who's going in like a Nautilus, like a Rakan, and you go in and taunt them. It's a very, very good setup, but it's just actually not built as much as it should be. So if you're going like Heartsteel and Sunfire Aegis, stop. Give this a try and you will know why it's in this video. Now, we're going to stay in the top lane and you can also play this guy in the mid lane. So who likes big hammers? Well, I know this one thing that will make your hammer even bigger, right? When you're playing Jayce, that is. And that's to go Gore Drinker as your mythic item. So guys, I know lots of people are going to go Eclipse, right? Maybe even some shads out there are going to go like Gale Force, like T1 Xayah did. But honestly speaking here, like Gore Drinker as your mythic item, and you can see the stats here, is actually really, really good. Like it might even be better than Eclipse. Now, I would recommend going Gore Drinker when you're against lots of melee close range champions. If you're against stuff, I don't know, like Nidalee and cannons and, you know, just range champions, because the active, you're going to get no use out of it. But Gore Drinker into melee champions, and most of the time you're going to be playing against them as Jayce in the top lane, it's super OP. Also, the ability haste you get from the item and the mythic passive, also the HP now it's giving you from the mythic passive because they changed that recently, makes you tanky, right, as the game progresses. Makes you even better in the mid to late game and just harder to kill. You still have all the damage you need, but yeah, the ability haste, pair this with your Mana Mune and maybe like Serulda's Grudge, because you do need a bit of armor penetration, you know, because most champions will be building stuff like steel caps into you. But this setup for Jayce, just like most of the other builds in this video, is super underrated, and yeah, this will enhance your hammer 100%. Now moving back down to the bot lane here, Katarina is not the only Noxian with a super broken build at the moment. And if you want to break your opponents with the maximum amount of DPS on the Rift, then playing Draven and building a Kraken Slayer as your mythic item into an Infinity Edge will give you just that. This is for those Draven players with the biggest testicles, like if we're going to talk about hammers for a second, because you're not going Eclipse, right, which gives you a bit of survivability, you're going Kraken Slayer. This is all-out offense, and you know how they say the best defense is the strongest offense? Well, this is that mantra, championified. Draven embodies that mantra. And you might be like, oh, but I need to go Eclipse, you know, I'm still going to deal the amount of damage I need to deal. For sure, Eclipse might actually be like just more consistent, but if you do have a lead, please guys, don't go Eclipse. I'm serious. Going Kraken Slayer, you're going to win a game a lot quicker. You will two-shot people. Seriously, even tanky champions with HP, right? Kind of like I mentioned for Twitch by going Bork. Kraken is kind of like Draven's substitute. This will allow you to get through anything that's in front of you, and you will win a game so much quicker than going like Essence Reaver into Eclipse. So Draven with Kraken Slayer is next on the list. But let's say you're a mid laner, right? And you're a fan of Noxus, but not a fan of playing long redhead chicks with a scar over their left eye, then playing Talon, the Blade Shadow, will give you that satisfaction. Lots of Talon players are building Prowler's Claw, which is fine, but it's just a claw. And it is statistically not the best mythic item for this Assassin's Creed Altair wannabe. You know what you have to build instead? Eclipse. So you might not get Omnivan from the item, but you are now getting ability haste, and the Ever Rising Moon passive's cooldown is now down to just 6 seconds for melee champions. So for Talon, in those mid to late game teamfights, you can proc this multiple times when you're parkouring over enemy champions' heads. This makes the champion even deadlier, and trust me guys, you will still have enough lethality and damage to one-shot squishy champions. This just makes you a little bit harder to kill, it gives you more survivability. It's almost like Annie going Rod of Ages, Talon going Eclipse. But try this out in your games. Now, if you thought Annie and Katarina were the only red-haired females on this countdown, you are sorely mistaken, and it sounds like I got a fetish or something for them. Maybe I do. But maybe the most fun build in this video belongs to this next champion. Now, I know lots of players when they play Fist Mortune, they like to build Kraken Slayer into Collector or Infinity Edge, and like Talon's build with Prowler's Claw, this will serve you well. But some high elo technology is bursting at the seams. It's trying to reach the masses, and it needs the jizz to help it do just that. The technology is this: Duskblade, Axiom Arc, Serylda's Grudge Misfortune. Why? Well, if you play a champ with red hair, you have to synergize that champ with a red item. That's why you rush Duskblade. But in all seriousness, like the lethality from Duskblade gives you huge one-shot potential, and think of all those buffs to engage supports recently. This indirectly buffs lethality Misfortune because enemy champions will be locked down for you to make it rain. Literally. The ability haste from the item also feels very nice. The recent lethality buff to Axiom Arc makes it a legit OP second item. Couple this with Duskblade's lethality, and you have a pentakill recipe. Not to mention the fact your bullet time will be up a heck of a lot quicker because of Axiom Arc's passive, and this will for sure catch enemies by surprise, and then finish this recipe off with a Serylda's Grudge for the armor penetration, because armor is the big cuck to this build, but also for the slow from its passive. It means enemy champions are locked into your bullet time for longer. Now last up, some of you might like playing Vel'Koz support, but what if I tell you there is a creature from the void who possesses even more power in the support role, especially at the moment? Well, hopefully you're scratching your head the same way in which Bel'Veth scratches the air when she goes into a Royal Maelstrom, because that's who the best support is, Bel'Veth. Now close your eyes. Picture the buffed engaged supports jumping onto a Bel'Veth. Do you think they're going to appreciate that? Bel'Veth is literally the queen at close range combat. She's like the Jackie Chan of the void. She has mobility, a knock-up, and a slow damage reduction in her E that allows her to bait spells for her AD carry. It's an extremely underrated support kit, and the best players in Korea are picking her into those engaged supports like Nautilus, Leona, Alistar. Just make sure you do the same. And this pick becomes even more powerful when the enemy team is close range. So they might have like a Katarina mid, a Wukong jungle, a Renekton top or something. That is when Bel'Veth can absolutely thrive. So those were the 10 builds, guys, and champion combinations that are really OP at the moment and will be OP in 13.4, providing nothing gets nerfed. And this has been the Jizz. I'll see you in tomorrow's Season 13 upload. Peace.